Welcome to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Marie, a courage coach, creative soul, and adventure seeker. Since through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail in 2019, I'm on a mission to help you embrace your most confident self so you can achieve your dreams too. If you're eager for deep conversations, big questions, and meaningful connections, join me on the quest to discovering how we can create a more magical and memorable life. Hello, nerds! How are you? I'm good. Today, I want to tell you about mistakes I have made. And I want to share those mistakes. And specifically, there are mistakes I've made in building my business. I want to share them because I see many people who are afraid of making mistakes, of what it's going to mean about them. But this whole journey that life is, I mean, when you throw yourself into something new, like starting a business or doing a job that you've never done before, it's a journey in learning to fail. So I'm going to be sharing those mistakes because I want you to see that it's not that bad. I want to rebrand mistakes. Show you that we can survive them, that I am human, that failing is not an end in itself, that I still got me, that I still love me, that I still have plenty of people who love me. And that the doomsday scenario that you have in your mind is not likely to happen. The worst thing that's going to happen is what you're going to make it mean about yourself and how shitty that's going to make you feel. So the worst thing that's going to happen is a feeling. That being said, I have had to learn to process mistakes differently. And I mean, I'm still learning. For example, in my last holiday, I was with my partner on vacation in Nicaragua, and when you're traveling, you don't always know what's going on. You're doing your best. I don't speak Spanish. Ollie does pretty well with Spanish, but I don't, and we're both kind of like daydreamers with our heads in the clouds. So something silly happened where we had to cross because our flight home was from Costa Rica. We had to cross the border from Nicaragua to Costa Rica. And, it's not like Canada and the US. It's much more DIY, let's say it this way. You can basically just walk across the border and nothing happens. What we didn't know, what seemed pretty obvious when I look back at it, there was you get off the bus, you go through customs, you go through like the first country's customs, and then you walk, and you can just walk into Costa Rica. But there's this building there with a long queue of people, right? And this long queue of people are queuing up to go inside the building and through the customs of Costa Rica. But you don't have, you can just like walk next to the queue. There's no fence or anything. You can just walk into the country. So that's what we did. We saw the queue and we were like, wonder what this queue is about. Never mind. And we just kept walking and then met some people that we've seen before that were waiting for the bus. And so we waited for the bus with them. And like 5 minutes before the bus was scheduled to arrive to take us to the city where the airport is, I asked the guys, oh, by the way, what was this queue about over there? And they were like, oh, it's the queue to go through the customs. And I said, oh, do we have to? And they're kind of like, well, you might want to, they're going to look at your passport, stamp your passport. Seems pretty important. And like Ollie and I just look at each other and went, oh, shit. So we had to, we couldn't get on the bus. We had to go back and the queue was longer and we wasted all this time that we could have, we could have already gone through customs and got on the bus with them. But because, so we went back and I was so pissed off. I was so angry at ourselves for being so stupid. And I wanted Ollie, my partner, to be angry with me. I was like, can't you just be angry? And he was like, no. I mean, we know now. We can just learn. We know for next time. And you moved on. I had a hard time moving on. I had a hard time forgiving myself for making the mistake in the first place. I had thoughts like, I should have known better. I should have known better. This made me feel angry. And this was making me go into like a circle. But he showed me that, well, this doesn't serve us in any way. Beating ourselves up this way doesn't serve us in any way, apart from making the day into a bad one. So he's just like, move on. Who cares? Made a mistake. We learned. Let's move on. And I was like, wow. You are so enlightened. Right? And that's a great example of how to process bigger mistakes, all kinds of mistakes. I've managed to do that in my business, but I still struggle with those small, silly mistakes, right? I'm not perfect, okay? So with big mistakes, you also have to forgive, learn, and move on. And I'm going to give you lots of examples, okay? We're going to jump into the five biggest mistakes I've made in building my business. I've made more than that, but we're going to focus on those ones. So the first one is not being aware of my privilege. I mean, being courageous is easier for me because I was born with a safety net and will die with a safety net. I will probably never ever be in big trouble. Materially, I mean. Because of my supportive family and their finances, their access to wealth, their access to resources. Someone was telling me the other day, everyone is 2 steps from being homeless. And I thought about it and I was like, to be honest, I'm pretty sure I'm many more steps away from ending up on the street. I'd have to take many, many, many steps before that becomes my reality because of the overwhelming amount of support I have around me. But my level of consciousness around that has had to evolve. First, I just used to think everyone experienced the world the same way that I did. I knew intellectually that they didn't, but it's as if I believed, if they don't have a job, if this person doesn't have a job, it's because they don't try hard enough or they don't have the right mindset. So I could understand that people come from a different place, but I couldn't understand that now in the present, they didn't see things the same way that I did. I didn't understand how their past experience affected them today. I was like, well, they have so many opportunities today that they can grab onto. I couldn't understand that they didn't necessarily know how to grab onto, for example. Okay? If let's say this person was in the same situation as me with the same opportunities as me, I didn't understand how they couldn't just do it the same way that I did. So I kind of gave advice blindly sometimes and lacked empathy. Just expected others to just do it. Like Nike says, just do it. It's easy. I can tell you how to do it. But, I have learned how, for example, to promote myself, how to put myself in a situation where I look a certain way and how to design my resume in a certain way that makes me look good. Not everyone has learned this. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm also white. I have parents who are in business, so I've grown up seeing business people operate. This is like a some things are second nature to me that people that seem strange to others. Anyway, now I acknowledge the truth. But I've had to go on a journey. I've had to connect with all kinds of different people. I've had to talk with, for example, homeless people, create a relationship with, I have one of them that comes to mind. I had to see firsthand how a neurodivergent brain of somebody that I love affects their reality. And that is what brought me to have more humility and to say, look, here's what I can do for you. Here's how I can help you. But here's what I don't know about and cannot pretend to understand. Here are my limitations. Here are my strengths. Here are my limitations. I can help you with this, this, and that, but take my advice with a grain of salt. I don't know better than you what works for you. That's it. Plain and boring humility that I couldn't access before, because when I became aware of my privilege, I was ashamed of it. So, before there was a few steps. There was the moment where I was not aware of it. And then when I became aware of it, I had to work through the shame because I thought it was something I needed to hide, because I thought it meant I didn't deserve my success or I was not equipped to help. But that's not the case. You can own who you are with your strengths and your limitations in a very neutral way and let other people decide, can this person help me or not? If she can help me, great. But I'm not for everyone. Some people might not resonate with my experience and what I can offer them, and that's great. That's okay. They can just go and seek someone else. Doesn't mean I'm any less valuable as a human being. It just means I'm not for everyone, and that's okay. Again, this is plain and boring humility that I had to learn. Okay, number two, second mistake that I have made is crying in a session with a client. Crying or not knowing what to say, like freezing, or yelling. Not yelling, but getting very insistent. Okay, none of these I am proud of. Basically, they all are examples of me stepping out of my role as a coach and being in fight, flight, or freeze mode. So, for example, I don't do the work on myself before a session, and maybe I'm in a bad place in my head. Maybe something that the client says triggers me. And I react in a way that's not professional. That's not in service of them. That's self-preservation. Okay. Maybe I was, there were times where I was insecure about myself. I wanted to prove that I was good at what I did. And the way I thought I was going to prove that is if they got results, if my client got the results that they wanted. So I was trying to rush them into those results and wanted them to get better as fast as possible so I could feel adequate. And this led to a few very awkward situations where I am not proud of how I showed up as a coach. This led to a client telling me, I want a refund. You're not helping me. And oh my God, in that moment, the embarrassment that I would feel. But at the end of the day, this just shows that I am human. And one of my coaches and mentors, Simone Grace Zale, is a great example of that. She is very successful. She is amazing at what she does, but she always reminds us of the mistakes that she's done when she was starting out. And still to this day, she is a great example of what it means to be human. And in one of the workshops that she did, she just interrupted the workshop in the middle and said, "Oh my God, I need to pee. Just stay there. I need to pee." And it's also happened in a coaching call with her, in a group coaching call with her, where someone said something and she was triggered and she just froze. And she told us, I don't know what to say right now. This is me being human. And it can happen to everyone. But we live in a patriarchal world where we have been trained to think we need to be professionals, and being professionals means basically being as close to a robot as you can, being neat, being on time, saying things like you want them, you want to say things, you want things to come out well. But this is unrealistic. This is trying to force yourself into this shiny box. That's not humane. So I have had to forgive myself every time that something like this has happened. I had to forgive myself, and then I had to learn. And we cannot skip this step. I had to learn, what is it here that I can do better? Oh, okay. For example, I can make sure I am prepared. I coach myself before the session so that when I show up, I am fully present for the client. I had to learn that and then move on. Not beat myself up. Forgive, learn, move on. Okay? But I have no regrets. I have no regrets, and I still believe you should start before you're ready, because I know some people would say, "Oh, well, you made those mistakes because you were not ready to be a coach." That's true. That's true. But the thing is, you can learn for years and years and years. I learned about all of these things in coach training, right? How to be a good coach. But what you learn in quote unquote school only starts making sense once you start making mistakes in the real world. So yeah, start before you're ready. You're going to fall flat on your face, and that's the best lesson there is. Okay, mistake number 3, not taking responsibility. Similar to the last one, the last mistake, is there were situations with clients where I did not step into my position as a leader, where I expected them, the client, to come prepared and to tell me what they wanted to work on and be organized and know exactly like what's next. And yes, there is a level of preparedness that I expect from my clients. There is. But I also have to claim my authority as a coach and take responsibility for the journey that they have paid me to create, to help them take, right? I cannot give them the answers, but I have to come with the questions prepared. And the reason why I was doing this, why I was putting all of the responsibility in their hands, is because I was afraid of making mistakes. So my thinking was, well, if I don't lead, and I was not, thinking that consciously, it was all unconscious. If I don't take the lead, then I cannot make mistakes. The mistakes will be in their hands. Well, they didn't show up. They were not prepared. But that's far too easy and a very comfortable place to hide. Very comfortable place to hide. So I've had a client ask for a refund. And again, that was embarrassing in the moment. That client said, you're not helping me. That was embarrassing in the moment when you could have done better. But I had to forgive myself, learn from this, and move on. And what I have learned from this experience is I need to be on the dot. Is that an expression? I need to show up for my clients and be like, here's what I think you need now in this journey. What do you think? I have come prepared. I have those worksheets for you. I have this thing that I want us to try together. Here's how I want to help you today. Let's go. Let's go into this together. What do you think? And sometimes the person is going to come to a call and tell me, Marie, I want you to help me with this. And that's great. That's great. And I say, yes, all right, perfect. But in the moments when I don't really know, I also have to be able to step in and be like, I've listened to you and to what you want, and here's what we're going to do next. Okay? So yeah, that is what I've learned. But I want to reiterate that before the learning, what comes first and what's most important is to forgive yourself. Because if you don't forgive yourself and you stay stuck in a spiral of shame of like making this mean that you're a bad person, that you suck at what you do, then you don't grow. Same is true for blaming the other person. If you find yourself blaming yourself is one thing, but blaming the other person also doesn't help. Like, oh, it's their fault for not being prepared. This is also keeping you from growing. So forgive, figure out what you can learn, move on. Speaking of moving on, let's move on to mistake number 4. Mistake number 4 is that I pretended to be perfect. So that's something that my partner made me realize because we lived together. He would see me sometimes do stories, make Instagram stories. And he said to me, it's weird how like you've been grumpy all day or you've been sad all day and suddenly like you turn on your camera and you're all bubbly. And he was not judging me. He was just making an observation and telling me like, are you sure that's good for you? Are you sure that's good for your psyche? And at first I was like, well, that's what I have to do for my business. Like, I'm not going to like show up like crying on the camera. Like, I'm not going to be grumpy in my videos. Like, that's what I have to do. And I had to realize, it took a while though, that I had this perfectionistic idea of what like a life coach on the internet should be, or like what a business owner should look like. Like a coach has to have their shit together, has to get up early and exercise and think positively. Like I would put a lot of pressure on myself. And the image of the coach I had in my mind, when it didn't match who I really was, I played a role. And that's what many people do. I fell into this trap again recently. When I came back from my trip to Nicaragua, I was like, okay, I'm gonna come back from this trip with like amazing insights and enlightened life lessons, and I'm gonna like write this amazing newsletter. I'm gonna make those videos, and like my energy is gonna be super high. And I had this perfectionistic idea of the like changed being I was going to be after 2 weeks of holiday in Central America. But when I came back, I was a hot mess. I felt shitty. Like after 2 days of traveling and not eating and sleeping properly, I just felt I was just like a ball of tears and grumpiness. And I was so angry with myself for not matching the image I had in my mind. So, it's easy to fall back into those patterns, but I'm getting better and better at catching myself. And I'm also rewriting the definition of what it means to have your shit together. When I say like a coach should have their shit together, what I actually believe having your shit together is you own the fact that you're human and that you have all of those shitty thoughts crossing your brain. and that you do feel bad sometimes, but you're gaining so much awareness of this that you don't let it affect your actions. That's what I'm striving for. Letting myself have the shitty thoughts, having the shitty feelings, but not letting it influence how I show up. So that means I'm not going to lash out at somebody else. And I mean, that's a journey, right? That I'm on. I'm also not pretending to be perfect there. But it's owning my humanness and then not letting the feelings take over when I think they're not going to create the life that I want. So that means, like I was saying, not lashing out, not buffering, not overworking, being aware of how I want to show up instead of letting my unconscious mind lead the way. So yeah, as a coach, I'm not here to help you become perfect. I'm here to help you accept yourself as you are and get better at feeling bad and not let the quote unquote bad feelings get in the way of creating the life that you want. That's it. Okay, so mistake number 5 is investing too much. And I mean, we call all of these things mistakes, but we could also call them learning opportunities. Okay, that's what they are. That's what they are, learning opportunities. So what I mean by investing too much is when you're into personal and professional development, which you are because you're listening to this podcast, you know that there is a lot of stuff you can consume, not just free stuff. There's a lot of stuff you can buy. It's a very profitable market, the self-growth market, even like business, learning about business, just development is a profitable market. And books, podcasts are one thing, but when you start looking into coaching programs, business programs, they can get expensive. Not just online, like also like doing a business degree is freaking expensive. Learning can be expensive. Anyway, I've spent a lot of money, and some of that money was very well spent. But some of it also came out of my bank account from a place of scarcity. From a place of, I need this right now. This is the solution. This is going to fix me. This is going to teach me everything. And I need it right now. Otherwise, my life is what I want's not going to work out. And I mean, there is aspirational marketing messaging that touched my heart. This happens to many of us sensitive beings. Like I cry when I watch a sad movie. And I get excited when I'm being sold to a so-called life-changing program. I mean, when you hear things like, oh, after you do my program, you're going to experience this and this and that, it can play the strings of your heart. So I spent thousands of dollars on stuff that I didn't really want because my friend was doing it, or because I wanted to be part of the cool kids, or because, like I said, like they managed to touch my heart in a certain way, or because the doors were closing in 24 hours. But I have no regrets because I had to do this in order to learn. I had to master my critical thinking. I had to develop a sense of grounding, an ability to put both of my feet down and ask myself, no, what do I want? I don't need anything. Don't need any of this. What do I want? And this comes from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. Like thinking, I have everything I need. I'm fine. Now, what do I want? From a place of like, I want this to enhance my life. It resonates with me. It lights me up and it sounds like it would be fun. That's it. When you want to spend, and this goes for any decision really, you want to make sure it comes from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. Again, scarcity is like, this is going to fix me, I need this now, and you feel a sense of rush. Whereas abundance is, this lights me up, I would love to experience this, I'm excited, might be afraid because it's new, but there's also a sense of calm. And the line is blurry, right? The line between both is blurry. You can also like sometimes be in scarcity and make yourself believe that you're in abundance. But the more you make mistakes, the clearer the line between both gets. So you have to make mistakes in order to understand the difference between scarcity and abundance. You have to make mistakes in your life to figure out where your path is. You have to go on many wrong paths to figure out which is the one that feels right to you. I was telling a client recently, they said like, am I barking at the wrong tree? And I said, you're going to have to bark at lots of different trees before you figure out which one is the tree for you. I make lots of dodgy analogies that don't really work, but you get me. So that's it for today. My 5 mistakes. Let's summarize my 5 mistakes. My 5 learning opportunities. Not being aware of my privilege. I had to have a few slaps in the face to become more humble. Also crying, not knowing what to say, yelling, quote unquote, in a session with a client, being like in a fight or flight mode with a client instead of the clear-minded professional that I want to be, without expecting perfection, right? Mistake number 3, not taking responsibility, putting the responsibility in my client's hands because I didn't want to make a judgment call. Mistake number 4, pretending I'm perfect. And mistake number 5, investing too much in things that I didn't really want. I have learned so much from those mistakes. And you know what? If you don't trust yourself to make decisions, which many of my clients start working with me because they want to trust themselves more, because they're stuck in a loop where they cannot make decisions for themselves because they're afraid of making mistakes. And the solution here, my friends, is to be okay with making mistakes, to realize that the worst thing that's going to happen when you do make a mistake, like I said at the beginning, is you're going to make it mean awful things about yourself that are going to make you feel awful, and that's okay. The worst thing that's going to happen is a feeling. And yes, there might be consequences in your life. There might be people that are pissed off with you. You might lose your job, whatever. The result of that is also going to be a feeling, okay? Let's say someone's pissed off at you because you've made a mistake. How is that going to make you feel? Might make you feel embarrassed. If you know that you can survive those feelings and that you can have your own back through those feelings, then jumping into something, the idea of making a mistake is not going to seem so bad. It's not going to seem so bad because you know that no matter what, you can forgive, learn, and move on. That's what I want you to leave with today. And reconnect with your inner resources. You're going to make mistakes, but you're going to learn, and you are capable of so much. And when you're so afraid of making mistakes, it's like you forget about how capable you are. You can get up again and make things better again. You can apologize if needed. Reconnect with everything that you're capable of, everything that you know about yourself, that you have a big heart and that you can make things right, and that it's okay to fall flat on your face. You get up again, you keep going. So that's it for today. My coaching program, Brave and Bold, if you want to dig into that work, immerse yourself into that pool and come out after 6 months with a much more grounded sense of yourself, a much stronger trust in yourself that allows you to make big decisions without constantly hesitating, that allows you to change your life one step at a time because you're not stepping on eggshells and you're not trying to protect yourself and to please others, then join us. Okay? I'm opening the program again this fall. So apply, because I want to make sure I can help you. If I cannot help you, I'm going to refer you to someone else. So go to selfgrowthnerds.com/braveandbold to apply to come to the information sessions. There's 2 for the first time because I want you to be able to come to one of them live so I can meet you. The first one is going to be August 31st and the second one September 1st. So go and apply, and if I think we're a good match, I'm going to send you the information about how to show up and see if the program and me as a coach are what you want in your life right now. Okay, that's it for this week. I will talk to you next week. Sending you lots and lots of love. Even if you make mistakes, forgive yourself, learn what there is to learn, and move on. Okay. Bye-bye. You just listened to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. Make sure to subscribe and to find me on Instagram at Self-Growth Nerds. If you want individual help developing the confidence to create a more meaningful and exciting life, visit selfgrowthnerds.com today to learn how. Finally, I want to thank my friend Etienne Galano for editing this, and I want to thank you, kind-hearted souls, for growing into your truest, most courageous selves every day and making this world a better, more beautiful place. My name is Marie, and I will talk to you next week.